When I was 6 years old, my dad bought me my first PlayStation 2. And the first game I ever played on that PlayStation 2 was Tony Hawk's Underground. A Tony Hawk game with a story and character customization? Oh, I was hooked. After that, video games became a huge passion of mine. I love being able to experience new worlds and the incredible stories that come with them. So, I figured, why not share my top 10 favorite video games? I like to think I have a pretty open and diverse taste in video games. So for that reason, I'm not going to rank these in any particular order. These are just the games that I've enjoyed the most over the years. Before we get into my top picks, I'm going to share some honorable mentions. These games were still a lot of fun and have some great qualities, but for one reason or another, they just didn't break my top 10 list. First on this list is Skyrim.
Hey, you. You're finally awake.
I know this is going to get me the most flack, but just listen. Skyrim is one of those games that I've probably put the most amount of time in. It has a super immersive open world, great character customization with so many side quests to finish. My issue lies with the story. It feels severely lacking in substance. It felt like Bethesda took a big step down from previous stories such as Oblivion and the Fallout franchise.
We're routed! Fall back!
Second on this list is Fable. I grew up with Fable as one of my favorite games. I love the blend of adventure and stoic British humor. The only reason I don't have it on the top 10 is because I got so many more hours out of other games compared to Fable. The last of the honorable mentions is Shadow of War. I love the first Middle-earth game. Talion is one of my favorite protagonists of all time. Unfortunately, the sequel fell to the rushed production curse. The first game received so much love that WB wanted to expedite the production of the sequel. And what sucks even more is you can feel that in the game. The lack of depth to the story and the consistent bugs throughout the game took it down a few notches for me. But it did have a pretty kick-ass DLC. Now finally, let's get into my top 10 favorite games. And like always, spoilers ahead. Speaking of Shadow of Mordor, that's actually one of my top 10 picks. Talion, a ranger of the Black Gate, is cursed to roam between life and death. His soul becomes attached to a wraith, Celebrimbor, the same Celebrimbor that made the Rings of Power. The story of this game is pretty straightforward, and the gameplay is fantastic. But the greatest reason this is in my top 10 is because it uses one of the most complex mechanics in all of gaming, the Nemesis system. For those of you who don't know what that means, in Shadow of Mordor you face an Uruk army. In said army you have a set of grunts, captains, and war chiefs. If you die to a grunt, their status amongst the army grows and they can become a captain, gaining special abilities and attributes, and their base stats increase. If you kill said captain, you gain a fear bonus. Other grunts on the map start to fear you more, and so on for the other ranks. This adds another level of depth to the gameplay and a whole new level of rage when you die.
I'll track better ghouls than you, scum!
Next up on this list is Marvel's Spider-Man. I love this game. This is the first game I ever completely finished 100%. And then I 100% completed the DLC. And then the main story 4 more times. Insomniac gave us a near perfect Spider-Man game. Taking place 8 years after he was bitten by the radioactive spider, you play as Peter Parker and experience all of the hardship and loss that comes with being the human spider. It built on the foundation laid by the video game adaptation of Spider-Man 2 and the Ultimate Spider-Man game, and gave us an action-packed game with an emotional story to back it. The abilities that Peter has and the insane amount of costumes that you can fight crime in, it's no wonder this game swung its way into my top 10. My next pick is the greatest Star Wars game of all time, Star Wars Battlefront 2. When I tell you this game consumed my afternoons after school and every spare second I had as a kid, I would not be exaggerating. Battlefront 2 has cemented a place in my heart as one of the greats. First, you have the story. Not overly complex by any means, but you get to play as a 501st Trooper from the beginning of the Clone Wars all the way to the end of the Empire. You have Galactic Conquest, where you can choose between the Empire to conquer the galaxy, or play as the Rebels to fight back against the Empire. Or you can play as the Republic, taking down the Clankers, or the CIS to destroy the clones. You have an instant action where you can get thrown into the battlefield, taking command post after command post. And of course, the best game mode is Assault on Mos Eisley. Choose between the heroes or villains and test your skills with a blaster or a lightsaber. Battlefront 2 will always be on my list of favorite video games. The next game on my list is going to be Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Black Ops 2 has so much to offer in the first-person genre. The continuation of Mason's story while also building on the stellar gameplay of the first Black Ops makes this easily one of the top Call of Duty games. The online gameplay and the Zombies game mode are fun enough to make their own set of games. The different maps and perks and Easter eggs in the Zombies mode kept me coming back round after round.
Scary! Ah!
Oh, big man. Next is going to be a game that set a new standard for story-driven narrative games. The Last of Us.
Please don't.
The Last of Us gave us a whole new look at story games. Our main character, being Joel, a rough and tumble, no-nonsense smuggler with a heartbreaking past, is tasked by the rebel group of the game to deliver this teenager, Ellie, to a larger group of rebels because she may carry the cure for the spores outbreak that has plagued their world for decades. The amount of depth to each character in this game is honestly quite amazing. The amount of emotion you feel behind each encounter makes the loss of any of them that much more upsetting. By the end of the game, you feel this sense of accomplishment, partnered with a lingering sense of anxiety because of the game's ending choices. Showing the complexity of Joel's character and the choices he has to make throughout the game solidify him as one of the greatest protagonists in gaming.
Right now,
Swear to me. Swear to me that everything that you've said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.
Okay.
Next on my top 10 list is a game that is so simple yet offers so much fun. Left 4 Dead.
Wheat my ass.
When I was a kid and I saw the game case for the first time at Hollywood Video, it terrified me, but I knew I had to play it. Its simple layout of a zombie shooter yet unique infected designs give this game an edge over other zombie shooters. I remember the first time hearing the tank theme music and almost having a heart attack. Oh my god, dang it! Holy shit! And then they built on this solid foundation of a game and then gave us a sequel that was just as fun, but added in a few new elements such as melee weapons and new infected to turn the fear factor up a notch. Next up is one of the greatest video game adaptations ever made, The Godfather.
Someday, and that day may never come, I may call upon you to do a service for me. Until that day, accept this as a gift.
If you can't tell, I really love mafia-themed entertainment. It feels almost wrong to put this on my top 10 list, but also feels so right. The Godfather loosely follows the story of the Corleone family from the first movie, but adds our protagonist into some key parts of the franchise. But what was so fun about this movie wasn't getting to experience the Godfather movie, but from a different perspective, but getting to experience the lifestyle firsthand. You have guns and explosives that you can buy on the black market, being able to drive around in old classic cars and steal them off the side of the road, and of course, being able to take over rackets and extort businesses all over New York City. You start off as an associate and work your way up to becoming the Don of New York. If you love the Mafia Games franchise, this one is definitely worth a shot.
Hey kid, let's take a walk.
Next on this list is yet another PS2 classic and a game that I got hours and hours and hours of enjoyment out of. Guitar Hero 3. Trust me when I say this, Guitar Hero 3 was the first game that I probably logged close to 1,000 hours of gameplay on. Working your way from a dumpy little garage band to playing on the big stages gave the game a good change from the previous titles. The songs that you get to play on each set made you feel like a real-life rock and roller, plus a whole set list of songs that you could buy with in-game currency. And on top of all of that, adding in guitar battles with real-life rock and roll legends and literal Satan gave this game such a huge edge over the previous games.
The best has ever been! Shining your eyes in a piano bow and play that fiddle hard. 'Cause hell broke loose in Georgia and the devil deals the cards.
For this next pick, we're going to explore another one of my hyperfixations. The next game on my top 10 list is Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2. In light of the newest installment, while Sparking Zero is an amazing game and definitely fills my nostalgia bucket, I got so much enjoyment out of the second game of the franchise. Of course, you replay the events of Dragon Ball Z and GT and the What If storylines, but the game had so many other game modes to offer. You have the different martial arts tournaments you could fight in. There was also Ultimate Battle Z, which was basically like the Mortal Kombat pillar system. On top of that, there were 129 playable characters and their subsequent transformations. The character customization was so simple to use as well, beefing up your characters to make the harder difficulties at least more bearable. I can remember breaking so many DualShock 2 controllers, but I still say this game is one of my favorites.
The Saiyans are a true warrior race! Don't underestimate us!
And last, but definitely not least, is a title that literally brought tears to my eyes. God of War 2018, and of course I can't talk about the first without talking about God of War Ragnarok. I grew up with the original God of War series. I love the original trilogy, and wouldn't have been mad with a sequel that took Kratos in the same direction. But I have to say, I was so impressed with the character development. Kratos went from a man that only cared for his revenge and killed any god or mortal that stood in his way, to a father plagued by the guilt of his past, trying to make sure his son doesn't fall down the same path. The combat was so refreshing. I loved the old school hack and slash style from the older games, but making the combat more cinematic made the immersion that much better. I love how you can really feel the difference in the Blades of Chaos, the Leviathan Axe, and in the sequel, the Dropnir Spear. Each weapon feels so unique in the basic combat as well as the special moves you can use. I love the different enemy types and encounters in these games. I love how each realm has their own set of enemies and bosses. These games will always be on my top 10 favorite games list. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a comment down below of your top 10 list of favorite games. If there's a game that you guys would like to see me play, drop a comment down and let me know. I would love to start posting some gameplay footage. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.